Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, Daily Motion, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Sunday, February 22nd, 2015, around 3:04 p.m. in Belleville, Massachusetts. Sunny out. Highs right now is about 40 degrees. It's a heat wave. It's a heat wave. Lots of snow melting. We need to get these 8 feet of snowbanks down and down and down. It's not going to last forever. It's only going to be one day stand and then back to bitter cold. But good news. No major snowstorms for the next 7 days. I think we'll turn the corner. And I think next week it's March. And I have a feeling that March we're going to have maybe a lot of 40 and 50 degree days in a row to get the snow melt. Some news to report. Celtics power forward Jared Sachinges is going to be out for the rest of the year with a foot injury. That's a tough break for the Celtics. And he's a good player and they're going to miss him. And they're going for the playoffs, but with him out, it's going to be tough. And that's about it on the news. My next subject is about a major sporting event that happened 35 years ago today. It happened on February 22nd, 1980. It was the Miracle on Ice at the 1980 Winter Olympic Games at Lake Placid, New York. It was the semifinals of the ice hockey tournament between Team USA and Team Russia. And this was a miracle game because the Russians were dominant in the Olympic play and international play for many years in the 1970s and 1980s. They had a Russian team, even though they say the Olympics back then were for amateurs. Many of the Russian players were professional players who played in Russian leagues, so they're not really considered amateurs, but they were. And the USA hockey team was coached by Herb Brooks, and the captain was Mike Eruzione. And 6 months prior, the United States hockey team had a series of exhibition games. They played about 61 exhibition games for 6 months leading up to the 1980 Winter Olympics against teams from Europe and North America, including some NHL teams. And they've played off against the Russians on February 9th, 1980, a couple weeks before this game was played. And Russia crushed the United States by the score of 10-2. And Russia was the heavy favorite to win the gold medal in the 1980 Winter Olympic Games. And they had group play. It was kind of like a round robin tournament for the Olympics back then for the ice hockey. And they didn't have a medal round like it was like Group A and Group B. The top two teams from Group A and Group B met out in the semifinals and finals. And in group play in the 1980 Winter Olympics, the USA tied Sweden 2-2, and Sweden was kind of the heavy favorite. Then the US went on to upset the Czech by a score of 7-3, Norway 7-2, Romania 7-2, and West Germany 4-2, and the US went 4-0-1 to advance to the medal round. And the Russian team was dominant in the round robin round of the 1980 Winter Olympics. They beat Japan 16-0. They beat the Netherlands 17-1, Poland 8-1, Finland 8-1, and Canada 6-4, which was only just a competitive game. Canada wasn't very good in Olympic competition for many years because they just send the amateurs. They didn't send the NHL players. That would have been a different story if they send the NHL players to play in the Olympics in 1980. It would have been a tough game. It would have been a tough game. Probably somehow the Canadian national team would have pulled it out. And then on February 22nd was the semifinal games between Russia and the United States. And it was held at the Field House in Lake Placid, New York. And about 8,500 people attended this matchup. And the game was at 5:30 p.m. And it was shown live on CTV, which was in Canada. And some local markets, the ones close to the United States, like Detroit, Michigan, could get to see the CTV feed live because that was so close. And maybe there was a couple in like Burlington, Vermont, and like Caribou, Maine. But the rest of the country, ABC had the rights to the 1980 Winter Olympics, and they decided to show the game on tape delay at 8 p.m. They didn't have the capability of showing the game live at 5:30 because they would have probably had to preempt the local news and ABC World News, and back then the affiliates would have been mad because of preempting local news because of advertisements for local things, plus the ABC News was highly rated, and they would have like preempt some syndicated programming, including game shows and stuff, which they made millions of dollars for the local television station, so they couldn't. So ABC decided to tape delay it, and calling a game on ABC was Al Michaels and former Montreal Canadiens goaltender and Hockey Hall of Famer Ken Dryden. And Al Michaels was called hockey for the Winter Olympics because he was the only person on the ABC sports staff to actually call a hockey game. Back in 1972, he called the hockey tournament for the 1972 Winter Olympics on NBC. Keith Jackson never called a hockey game, or Frank Gifford, or Howard Cosell. Could you imagine Howard Cosell calling a hockey game? That would have been funny. And the game started like this. Russia went up 2-0 early in the first period, and then when that happened, Russia was going to blow. People were thinking Russia was going to blow the United States off the map in this game. But the United States scored 2 goals quickly from Dave Christian and Mark Johnson, and it was tied 2-2 after the end of the first period. Real competitive. And this had the looks of a very tough game. Many experts were saying, this is going to be tough, but somehow Russia's going to run away with it. Russia scored in the second period. They scored only 1 goal, and it was 3-2. Jim Craig was playing amazing in goaltending for the U.S. in the U.S., and they had a chance. The U.S. had a chance to stay in the game. The third period, Mark Johnson scored the tying goal up at 3-3, which was amazing because a lot of people were saying it could be a miracle coming up. The USA could pull off this upset. The USA could pull off this upset. And within 10 minutes left of the game, the captain of the USA hockey team, Mike Eruzione, scored the game-winning goal, and the score was 4-3. It was amazing. And then Jim Craig played an amazing game, and they were counting down. And Al Michaels says, 11 seconds left, 10 seconds left. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! The USA beats Russia in Olympic hockey 4-3. Amazing upset. One of the biggest upsets of all time in any sport. I think this was bigger than 1969 Super Bowl III with the New York Jets beating the Baltimore Colts 16-7. This was amazing. The U.S. roster was filled with collegiate players, and the Russian team was filled with professional hockey players from Russia. Even though they were amateurs, they're still professionals. They were still professionals. It was going wild. Everybody was cheering like crazy. But the USA did not win anything at the advance to the gold medal round. And back then, it was like a round-robin competition. The USA was not guaranteed any medal in the championship, in the gold medal game. It was a round-robin thing. If the U.S. lost, they could finish as low as 4th. So this game could have meant nothing to the United States. And everybody was going crazy. Jim McKay, who hosted the Olympics on ABC in 1980, he said this was one of the biggest upsets in sports history. He says it'd be like a Canadian college team being the Pittsburgh Steelers in a Super Bowl, which that's the equivalence of it. 2 days later, the United States beats Finland by a score of 4-2 to win the gold medal in the 1980 Winter Olympics. It was amazing. It was probably a great time for this country in the United States, because in 1980 there was going through a serious recession. Gas prices were through the roof. There were long lines just to get gas because they think it was a gas shortage. Unemployment was running high. Russia invaded Afghanistan. The United States was not going to go to the Summer Olympics in 1980 in Moscow. Russia, there was so much political strife in the United States. Ted Kennedy was running for president against Jimmy Carter. They were part of the same party, the Democratic Party. So much stuff. But this was a sigh of relief to the United States of America, the U.S. Olympic team winning the gold medal. Very amazing. A lot of stories have been written about this. Afterwards, 13 players from the 1980 Winter Olympic team went on to the NHL. Most of them didn't have too good of a career. Michael Eruzione didn't play in the NHL. Jim Craig had a cup of coffee in the NHL. He wasn't a good goaltender, so he never amounted to much in the NHL. The ones that had maybe decent careers was Neil Broughton, who was like the captain of the North Stars and then the Dallas Stars, one of the best players in Dallas Stars history. His number 7's retired for the Stars organization. Defenseman Ken Morrow, who was on 4 championship-winning teams for the New York Islanders, so he had a decent career. Mike Ramsey, who was a defenseman for the Buffalo Sabres for many years, played over 1,000 games. Dave Christensen, who played over 1,000 games and scored over 300 goals in the NHL. He made a few All-Star teams, including 1991 when he was a member of the Boston Bruins. And Herb Brooks had a decent NHL career. As a coach, he coached the New York Rangers, the Minnesota North Stars, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the New Jersey Devils. Herb Brooks was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2002, but Herb Brooks passed away like the next year in 2003, got into a car accident, and none of the players who played on the 1980 USA Olympic hockey team are enshrined in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, Canada. And I don't think any of them are going to be, unless if they induct teams into the Hockey Hall of Fame, which they've never done before, and they probably never will. And they made so many movies about the 1980 Olympic hockey team, a couple of great movies, a lot of books were written about them. They were 1980 Sportsman of the Year by Sports Illustrated, and this team was amazing. The 1980 men's hockey team for the Olympics was probably the best Olympic hockey team of all time for the United States. It was the second gold medal. They won a gold medal in 1960, and the USA has never won a gold medal since in Olympic competition. They've won some some silver medals, but that's about it. But the 1980 the U.S. men's hockey team in the Winter Olympics, just an amazing feat. And that's about it on that. Be back later. Facebook, friends, YouTube, follows, Daily Motion, Twitter. The last video blog will be about the person I profile, Pro Football Hall of Famer Andre Tippett. See you later. Bye now.